study,
and play come together on a Windows 11 PC.
And for a limited time, college students get
the best of both worlds.
Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
I am your host, Stassi Schroeder. Welcome to Tell Me Lies, the official podcast. What's the most unhinged thing of season 3?
Steven, because he's so evil.
I do think he is misunderstood.
You see everyone face consequences. It's intoxicating.
The writers just know how to trick you.
There's always a twist in this show. It's nothing you would expect.
Tell Me Lies, the official podcast, now streaming, and stream the new season of Tell Me Lies on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
Hello there, Stanley Carr here. You know, I love collecting music and sports memorabilia. Want to know where you can find some? I'll tell you. Go to oldglory.com. This website features one-of-a-kind apparel from your favorite sports teams and musical artists. And I can help you get 15% off of all items. Use the code WWH135. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show, and with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He's competed for numerous wrestling promotions all around the world, including the WWE, during the Attitude Era back in the early 2000s. I am pleased to welcome Joe E. Legend, a.k.a. Just Joe. Joe, welcome to Wrestling with Heart.
Thanks for having me on. I'm a little bit brokenhearted, though. I saw Wrestling with Heart. I thought we were going to talk to Bret Hart, so I'm kind of sad it's just me.
One of these days we'll get him on here for sure. So
he's a good guy.
Definitely is. You've got a pretty interesting story. Grew up in Toronto, Ontario. Grew up with Edge and Christian and Rhino, and getting to be around those guys. Were you always drawn to professional wrestling as a kid?
I was at first. I was always involved in martial arts. I did karate and kung fu for 10 years, so I got a bunch of black belts and stuff like that. But I wasn't really interested in wrestling. But my dad took me to see a local show with the. You remember the original Sheik and Bobo Brazil and Louis Martinez, the greats of that era. My dad brought me to a show there, and I just, first day fell in love with it. And actually, oddly enough, I met Sweet Daddy Siki on that night. My dad was just, oh my gosh, that's Sweet Daddy Siki. I'm like, who? I have no idea at the time. And then years later, he'd helped train me to become a wrestler. So it's kind of weird that my first introduction to wrestling, I met the guy, one of the two guys who was going to just kickstart my career.
Such a legend we lost too soon. Definitely one of the greats of Canadian wrestling. At what age did you decide I want to do this? Because I think that it's interesting to see it where everybody's stories come from. Some people get into it. They know they want to do it since they were kids. Others kind of fall into it. What was your story like?
I was about 14 when I was like, this would be fun. And I think by 16, I decided, that's what I'm probably going to do. Okay.
But you had that martial arts background. It kind of helped prepare you, I'm sure, for the industry in terms of the physicality and combat sports, because there's a lot you can do with martial arts that kind of goes hand in hand with pro wrestling, is it not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of wrestling has judo and various other learning how to break fall to protect yourself and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of the carryover from martial arts that work there. But I will give credit to it. Like martial, I'm not going to take away from it. I love it. I'm proud of my black belts and everything. But training with Ron and Siki at Sully's gym in Toronto, their cardio training was spectacularly good. Like it beat the hell out of you. You hated it while you were doing it, but afterwards, I had the best cardio going. And I'm a guy with asthma, so I've always kind of been very conscious of my breathing and stuff. And my cardio was 10 times as good after wrestling training than it was after all the martial arts training. So the martial arts was definitely helpful, but the martial arts was a stepping stone into the wrestling. It helped me. I was flexible. I wasn't going to hurt myself and tear a muscle because I was used to, throwing high kicks and all that stuff. So it was definitely a huge help. And then I learned body control at a young age. There's some kids, my son plays handball, and there was a couple of kids on his team there, and they would have growth spurts. And you could see them when they were running that they were, 6 foot tall, but in their mind, they were still like 5'9". So they were really awkward at first. They couldn't quite grab, they didn't realize how tall they were, how long their legs were, and they ran funny and stuff like that. I didn't have that because the martial arts always had me in tune with how my body worked.
Yeah, you really have to discipline yourself and condition yourself because you're using your body in a way that you're not used to. But since you've had
not supposed to, actually, but yeah.
but having that background, it's kind of like part of those fundamentals because you learn some of those things in wrestling, like you said, it carries over. So, working with Sweet Daddy Siki and Ron, what are some things that they're telling you, helping guide you along that you still apply to today, all these years later?
Little things that were valuable. Like for instance, something I was teaching at one of the classes I was running this week on how you hit the ropes. You always keep your arm over top, because if the top rope breaks and you go into it with your arm, you'll just fall out of the ring and lawn dart your head to the ground and kill yourself. But if your elbow's over top, as the ropes collapse, you'll kind of hook the middle rope, you'll backflip, and you'll land your feet on the floor, and you'll live. Yeah, come on. That's a bit of baloney, I think. And then they told me about the to get used to long drives, learn how to sleep in public because you'll be on long flights and long travels. And my first trip home from South Africa took 44 hours, and I couldn't sleep in public at the time. After that trip, I learned how to sleep in public. Ron and Siki were right, and I was just being stupid and not learning. So all these little things that they showed me along the way, how to, save money on the road, how to, protect yourself from an injury, how to work around an injury, how to work around somebody else's injury, how to work in a broken ring. Like they had all these, for lack of a better term, I guess it's kind of a disaster training where they showed you, here's something that could go wrong at any given time. You got to know how to fix it. And in turn, it's been good because I've worked a lot of rings that have broken and collapsed. I've worked in, buildings where, everything's just gone awry. Stuff's crashed. Chairs are broken. I've got audience, just on and on. And Siki and Ron kind of told me how to navigate those waters.
Yeah, and it can be hard at first because you're young and you're trying to figure this whole thing out. Yeah. And you have to really find ways to navigate your way through. So it can be difficult. So, but you're able to get through it, and you got your training. First match, what was that like for you?
I was very blessed in that it was the great Tiger Jeet Singh.
Yes.
Okay. He was running a show. I think it was in Brantford, Ontario. And it was a big Indian festival. There was like 10,000 Indian people there, and they're all like hyper for Tiger. And it's an outdoor show. And Tiger's going to work Silent Brian McNee. He's a deaf wrestler. He's a wonderful guy. But the weather went for a crap, and it started raining a little bit. So they thought, we got to get Tiger out there early. Because my buddy Keith, Zach Wild, we were going to go out there first. But they're like, we better get Tiger out there. And so they put Tiger out there first. So Keith and I ended up kind of main eventing the show, even though Tiger was, the main event. I mean, Tiger was the guy. final match on the show. And it was in front of 10,000, screaming Indians, who I've watched the tape of it. I was like the worst babyface in history. I didn't work the crowd once. They got cheered for me and I gave them a dirty look. I was just an awful babyface. But I had Keith, who I trained with. It was both our first match. And Ron was our referee. So if anything went wrong, Ron could get in our ears and kind of get us back on track. So it was a lot of help along the way, even though Ron didn't have to. Ron was telling us dirty jokes while we were doing the match, actually. But we had that comfort of going, okay, if anything goes wrong, Ron's there to fix it. And didn't need it because Keith conducted himself like a pro from day one. And I was just blessed enough to be in the ring with those two guys.
Yeah, you had two people that kind of helped guide you through that. And so your confidence started to grow. Mm-hmm. And over time, you start developing a little bit of a repertoire, putting some matches together and start getting some momentum. And you start touring the world. You start touring the rest of Europe and Canada, of course, working there, and then the United States. How did the whole WWE run come about?
Let's see. I helped Adam. I was the first guy kind of to leave the gym and get bookings. I went out to Japan, I went to South Africa, stuff like that. Back, the stooge sheets had me in as, Japanese superstar, even though I was very, very, very green. But I'd been in the ring with Sabu and with Mike Awesome and with all these guys, so it just upped my stock. And so I got those guys to come with me, started going to Detroit and stuff a lot. We ended up doing a show called Outlaw Championship Wrestling in Oshawa, Ontario. And Carl DeMarco, who was Canadian president of WWF at the time, was there. And Adam and I were a tag team called Sex and Violence. Take a look at me. Guess which one was Sex? Not this guy. But we got over, and we worked for Bill Scullion was running it, Bloody Bill Scullion. And Carl was there and just took a shine to Adam. And so he ended up getting Adam a bunch of tryouts and workouts and things of that nature, and Adam got signed. And then they had a show in, I think, Hamilton, and Adam's car died, so he needed a ride. So Jay, Christian, gave him a ride, and they've been best friends since they were toddlers, I think. So Jay drove him, and Adam's like, yeah, bring your gear. So Jay brought his gear, and when he got there, I guess he was late, so the match he had scheduled, they put somebody else on, but they said, well, put Adam in there with his friend and see what he can do. And then Jay really impressed him, giving Jay a job. And the WWF, Adam and Jay put in a word for me. I went down and did a workout in Connecticut. They liked me, but didn't have a spot for me. I was like, okay. So I went to Jim Cornette was really, really good to me about that. He was handling a lot of that stuff. So he would always take my calls and stuff. He was really cool. And I ended up getting a call from Jay. At one point, I was wrestling out for Emile Dupree in Eastern Canada. And he's like, Terry Taylor's going to call you. Because Terry Taylor was, I guess, talent acquisitions at the time. I was like, okay. Anything more than that? He said, yeah, they want to do the new Freebirds. And they really like you. They think you could be the Terry Gordy of the team. Then they got Reckless Youth, and they got there's a third name floating around. Scott Vick was used a lot, but there's a few other names thrown around. And Michael Hayes is going to manage you. You into it? I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm not from the South. I don't drink, and I'm not particularly into Southern Fried Rock. But if you're giving me a paycheck, I'll pretend. And so Terry Taylor called me and got me another workout. I finished up on the September, I think, 5th in the Maritimes. They flew me down to Connecticut on the 6th, and I signed on the 7th. I had a match. They had to have Michael Hayes look us over and watch myself and Reckless Youth have a match. And once again, just blessed in the moment because Reckless Youth is a ridiculous good talent. We were friends for a while. We'd worked, we were comfortable working with each other. And they signed us. So I was going to be a new Freebird. And that was all set up. And it took them about, it was 8 or 9 months to get my work visa for some reason. But between the time they signed me and the time they had my visas when I started working on the roster, Hayes decided he didn't want to be an on-camera guy and he just wanted to be an agent. So he was going to agent tag team matches. So they decided to throw the whole Freebird thing out the window. And so I was kind of left in limbo, and then they brought me in, and then they fumbled around and they gave it that Just Joe piece of crap gimmick.
What could have been?
Yeah, I guess. But, if I had been on the road with WWE, money would have been great and all that stuff. Would have been awesome. But, this is going to make me sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but my sons are my best friends in the world. They turn 18 this Saturday, the twins. And if I'd been on the road, I wouldn't have had the relationship with my boys that I do. So, sure, the money would have been nice, but I wouldn't trade my relationship with my kids for anything. So it worked out the way it should have worked out.
What was it like being around Edge and Christian back in the...
AI is moving fast across the enterprise. But without visibility, it's just chaos. Different tools, different models, different teams using AI in completely different ways. ServiceNow turns that chaos into control. With the AI Control Tower, you see all your AI across the business in one place. What it's doing, what it's done, and what it's about to do. So you stay in control. To put AI to work for people, visit ServiceNow.com.
Early days of their career.
Oh, they smell like pee. No, they we got along fine. Jay likes to wind people up, so it's fun to be around him. He tried to wind me up, but it wouldn't work. So eventually I was just his audience. He'd come over, kind of give me the elbow in the ribs, watch this. And then he'd wind somebody else up and, annoy them and just make me laugh. The vast majority of our time was just being ridiculous and making each other laugh. When it came to match time, even then, we always took our matches seriously enough that we didn't ever want to shortchange the promoter, shortchange the fans, or anything like that. But the amount of dirty jokes and funny stories and ridiculousness that we would talk about during matches that the crowd, we were doing it right in front of them, but they couldn't hear us. It was always to try and break the other guy up. And so I guess it was kind of testing our professionalism. And to be fair, I think we were professional enough that nobody really ever saw all the kind of mischief we got up to.
And you also got to be around Rhino too back in the day. What was it like working with him?
No, we still hang out now when he comes over here. His daughter is German. He used to be married to a German, and his daughter lives, 10 minutes from me, 15 minutes from me. He was just over here. We did a show here in December. We brought him in to be a feature on that, and as always, did a great job. I was best man at his wedding years ago, which might be one of the reasons why his marriage didn't work out. I put the freaking curse on it, I guess. But he's a great guy. He's running, I think it's called Insane Wrestling Revolution in Michigan, and they're drawing good crowds. And obviously they're being a money's worth organization, or they would have dried up by now. So he must be doing something right. But he's a good human being. Can't say. I mean, to his face, I'll tell him he's a jerk all the time. But that's just because that's what you do with your buddies. But the reality of it is he's one of the best people I know. I'm blessed to have him as a friend.
And you got to have a good run into the WWE, as Just Joe. Got to work a few different opponents there. And, of course, have gone on to have a career outside of there as well. Mm-hmm. Who would you say have been some of your favorite opponents that you got to be in the ring with?
Probably guys that aren't as well known as they should have been. There's a guy from Winnipeg named Chi Cruz. The best wrestler you unfortunately probably didn't hear of. He's just so good at everything he does. The first time I really got to work with him, I worked with him once in Winnipeg, and we got along, but we didn't really hang out. But in South Africa, they roomed us together and really got to be pals. And there was one night, we worked once a week down there. And I didn't know who I was going to wrestle that night because the newspapers on Monday and Friday would give who your opponent was. Cheech, and Friday it said it was this local guy, Tornado 2, who's actually still a buddy of mine now as well. So when I got in the building, I pulled the promoter really late. He got there late. I'm like, his name's Ish Maharaj. I'm like, Ish, who am I wrestling tonight? And he's like, I don't know what the paper say. I'm like, dude, like, one paper says Cheech, one says Tornado. I got to know, because these matches are in rounds, like in boxing, and they go 2 out of 3 falls. It's old European style. I said, I got to come up with some crap here. I got to put some stuff together here, buddy. He's like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm like, you can't just, like, come on, give me a heads up. He can't give me a heads up. I said, you hear that music playing? I'm supposed to be walking to the ring right now. Could you please just tell me who I'm working? He goes, just go to the ring. We'll figure it out. And I went out and stood in the ring like a jabron waiting. Didn't know who it was. Then eventually Cheech came out, and we did the pat down from the ref. I'm like, Cheech, so what's up? He goes, you in the 3rd, me in the 4th, Broadway in the 5th. I'm like, okay. And I went and had one of the best matches of my life, because he and I have a very similar mindset on how a match should work, timing and all that stuff. And he's just so good. And then we had the best feud of my life all over Eastern Canada in the summer of 99, the best summer of my life. I brought him to Japan for my first Japanese main event. I got him booked over there. Can't say enough good things about working with Cheech. For Europe, I'd say probably a guy named Murat Bosporus. Turkish guy, lives in Germany. Kind of like a Turkish Taz in a way. Has a lot of suplexes, but just a hell of a talent. He's retired now.
Very cool. We're a show that talks about causes and charity work, and we're very passionate about that. What kinds of things have you been able to do outside of wrestling to help out in your community over the years?
Well, I've run several children's wrestling camps at the wrestling school that I teach at over here. The thing is, in Hanover, where I live, you have to be 15 or older to go to a wrestling show. So the only experience people have from wrestling, the kids here, they can't go to see wrestling shows. They can only watch it on TV. So I get them in there and try to get them on track with athletics. I'm a big proponent of sports, right? Like my one son, he does his first bodybuilding show this upcoming September. He's poised to win it. My other son looks like he's going to go pro handball goalie in the next year or so. Both my nephews are high-level university football players in Canada, and both, I think, are prospects for the CFL. Sport's a big thing in my life, and I think sports can help kids get away from a lot of the bad influences that are out there. You know, the idle hands are the devil's plaything. You let a kid sit around, and he'll find something to do. And I'd rather they got attention doing athletics and achievements than trying to get attention doing shadier things. So I've always tried to do stuff with trying to get kids involved in sports athletics. I used to teach kids classes in martial arts, karate, and kung fu. I've taught self-defense courses to women. It's a dangerous world out there, and there's some guys are pigs. Women need to be able to protect themselves. Like, women deserve that. They deserve to be able to protect themselves and not just kind of stand around and wait for a guy to help them. So predominantly that's been my thing as far as trying to give out and try to help people. I've done charity wrestling events, and I've donated wrestling gear to various causes. When I did a cross Canada tour, I had 4 championships to bring with me. It was the world belt I won in Russia, the world belt I won in South Africa, the one I won in France, and one other one, Japan, because those were the 4 belts. So what we did is we had a lottery every night during the shows, and they pull 4 winners. It was always kids. It was only like $1. It wasn't expensive or anything like that. I'm not trying to beat people. But then all those kids would carry my belts to the ring when they came for my matches. And then that money went to the Variety Club. I wanted it to go to Make-A-Wish, but the wrestling company had a deal going with the Variety Club. The Variety Club, of course, they're so wonderfully helpful to people that I was happy to donate money. So we used the belts as a marketing tool to try and make money for the Variety Club. So I was proud to be able to have a hand in that. There's many working parts in that, but I was one part.
That's amazing to be able to be involved in something that, you're doing it for a good cause and you're helping other people that need it the most. And so What is it to you about giving back to the community that gives you the most joy?
Well, I mean, I'm a Christian guy, so I always want to, try to be good and helpful to people. I'll tell you, I'll give you a quick story here and tell me if you feel the same way I do. It was that Canadian tour and the first day of the tour, and I went to the pro. It was Arda. I said, Arda, did you get those tickets so we can do the lottery thing? And he said, I didn't get them for the first show, but there's this guy, he's in a wheelchair. He's all messed up. Like do you mind if he walks you or he takes you to the ring? I said, yeah, of course. No problem. He'll bring all 4 belts. So he came up to talk to me at the merch stand. And this girl's pushing him up in the chair. And he's like, hi, Joe. I said, oh, yeah, you're my lovely valet tonight, are we? And he goes, yeah, I just want to tell you, when I knew about my condition, it was really traumatic for me. I said, oh, yeah, well, I imagine so. But, I'm glad to meet you. He said, well, I wasn't happy about it, and I decided I was going to do myself in. I was like, oh, my God. Like, I'm so glad you didn't, He said, but I was sitting in my living room, and I was filling in these little cards for my family and friends to say where I wanted my belongings and why I was doing what I was doing. And across the room, the TV was on and Raw was on. And the converter wasn't nearby for me to be able to shut it off or turn the channel or anything. So I just left it on. He said, it was just so interesting. And I saw you on there. I said, yeah, I was only on Raw once or twice, I think. So I'm amazed you saw me, He goes, well, I saw you on there. He goes, and, I just thought the whole thing was neat. He goes, and by the end of the show, I thought, I want to see where this goes. So I'm going to hold off on my suicide for a week. Because I just want to see where this angle goes. So he waited a week, and then Raw comes. He goes, and then by the end of I was sitting there with the converter in my hand, and then when Raw's over, kind of so am I. But the angle was so compelling, I thought, all right, I'm going to wait one more week. And then a week goes by, and at the end of that show, the pay-per-view will settle everything, and then I can finish off. And then, 1 month becomes 2 months, becomes 3 months. He goes, then I got online, and I started getting involved in these chat groups about wrestling and such. I said, okay. He goes, and that's where I met, and like I say, his hand was like this. And he gestures over his shoulder. He goes, that's where I met my wife. And that was the girl pushing his chair. And I was like, holy crap. And I do get emotional every time I tell a story. But he goes, I just wanted to say, and he reaches up with his hand like that to me. He goes, I want to say thank you for saving my life. Wow. So, yeah, I was like choked up. Like, here, take a T-shirt, take a poster, take a kidney, like whatever. I was just so moved by that. And I know it wasn't like I had a very minute influence on that. I mean, that was more Steve Austin and Rock and Undertaker and Kurt Angle, and all those guys were the draws. I wasn't the draw. But the fact that I had that minor amount of influence in this guy's life to stop him from making a catastrophic decision, why wouldn't I want to do that for anybody I could?
Yeah, I mean, you played a big role in that. You saved this guy's life, and such a powerful thing. I
was part of a lot of people who saved that guy's life. I'm blessed to have been a small part of that. But that was, So if you're feeling what I'm feeling when I hear myself tell that story, you understand why I'd want to do that for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, you just never know what people are going through, and if you're able to make a difference and be there for somebody who needs it, it just means a lot. And kindness just goes a long way in people's lives.
Yeah. Like, wrestling's a silly way to make a living. And I'm 56 and I'm still doing it. I'm 56 with a ponytail. So it's either wrestler or like roadie for Slayer, It's a very, goofy way to make a living. But on the flip side of it, there is some influence in there that's helped people. And I'm glad that I was able to do that.
Yes, you did. Well, Joe, I want to say thank you for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you on social media? And if there's anything you want to plug, feel free.
Oh, golly. Let's see. Well, my book is out. The first book, I got a 3-book series for my autobiography. It's called Joey Legend, and no, I haven't heard of you either. So that's out. It was on Amazon. I can't remember. I wish I could tell you where to find it out. But it is out for sale. It's online. People are I just got a list of some sales today, so I know it's out there still.
Congratulations.
If you look me up on Facebook, there's Joey Legend. There's a bunch of like fan sites and stuff. There's one. It's a picture of me in the top corner with a white background with the Japanese belt. That's the one, the most relevant one, or under my real name, Joe Hitchin. On Instagram, it's Lord Joey Legend because I am legitimately a Scottish lord. Those would be the best place to find me. Upcoming later in May, we're doing another event here in Hanover as well. And I've got tours upcoming in India, more news to follow. And I'm also making a couple of movies. One of them will be filming part of it in India. Another one will be filming in Thailand. And another one in Eastern Europe somewhere. So I got a bunch of this stuff going on. But if you go on my social media or on my Twitter, Lord Joey Legend, I'll announce it as it kind of pops up.
All right. Well, thank you again, Joe, and you're more than welcome to come back.
No, thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing here, and I love this whole positivity thing that's sorely lacking online. So thanks for being a light in a dark world, buddy.
I appreciate it. Take care.
You too, my friend. Bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.